In the sprawling digital empires of Silicon Valley, few companies command the power and reach of Meta. Billions connect daily across its platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. But beneath the surface of seamless digital connection, a seismic legal battle is unfolding. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, has launched an unprecedented antitrust lawsuit against the tech giant, accusing Meta of unlawfully acquiring its rivals to maintain a monopoly. The stakes couldn't be higher, not just for Meta, but for the very future of how we connect online. Could Instagram and WhatsApp, pillars of our digital lives, actually be taken away? To understand the present, we must look to the past. Before it was Meta, there was Facebook. Born in a Harvard dorm room, Mark Zuckerberg's creation quickly transcended its collegiate origins, connecting friends, then nations. By the late 2000s, Facebook wasn't just a website, it was a phenomenon, fundamentally altering how people communicated and shared their lives. Its rapid growth and innovative features seemed unstoppable, but this meteoric ascent would soon catch the attention of both users and, eventually, regulators concerned about unchecked power. By 2012, Facebook's influence was undeniable. It had achieved what few tech companies ever dreamed of: genuine global ubiquity. The company's user base had swelled to an astonishing scale, making it the dominant social networking platform worldwide. This massive reach translated into immense power over information, advertising, and user engagement. It set the stage for a period of rapid expansion, fueled by strategic decisions that would later become the central arguments in the FTC's lawsuit. However, even a colossus faces new challenges. As smartphones became pervasive, the digital landscape began to shift. The desktop era was slowly fading, giving way to mobile applications. New platforms emerged, offering fresh, intuitive ways to share moments and messages on these handheld devices. Facebook, primarily built for the web, recognized this profound change. It saw both an opportunity and a threat, understanding that its continued dominance depended on adapting to, or acquiring, the next wave of innovation. Enter Instagram. Launched in 2010 by Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, it quickly captured the zeitgeist. Its simple, elegant photo-sharing interface and iconic filters resonated deeply with mobile users, especially a younger demographic. Instagram wasn't just a photo app, it was a new form of visual storytelling, rapidly growing into a significant player in the mobile social space. For Facebook, it represented a clear and present danger to its future relevance, a rival that threatened to siphon away crucial user engagement and, ultimately, market share. In April 2012, Facebook made its move. For a then-staggering sum of approximately $1 billion in cash and stock, it acquired Instagram. At the time, Instagram had just a handful of employees and no revenue, but its user base was skyrocketing. Mark Zuckerberg himself reportedly called the acquisition a defensive move. The FTC alleges that internal documents reveal Facebook saw Instagram not merely as an asset, but as a direct competitive threat that, if left independent, could erode Facebook's dominance in the personal social networking market. The FTC's case hinges on the argument that this acquisition, and others, were part of a calculated buy-or-bury strategy. Rather than competing fairly, Meta allegedly chose to eliminate emerging rivals through acquisition, thereby maintaining its monopoly. This isn't just about market share, it's about stifling innovation and limiting consumer choice. A powerful quote from Mark Zuckerberg himself, unearthed during discovery, suggests a clear understanding of this strategic approach to competition, painting a picture of a company determined to control the social media landscape. Just 2 years later, another formidable competitor emerged, WhatsApp. Founded by Jon Koum and Brian Acton, WhatsApp offered a simple, cross-platform messaging service with an emphasis on privacy and no advertising. It quickly gained immense traction, especially internationally, bypassing traditional SMS and threatening to become the primary communication tool for billions. Its rapid, viral growth in the mobile messaging space posed yet another existential threat to Facebook's dominance, signaling a shift in how people would communicate globally. In February 2014, Facebook announced its intention to acquire WhatsApp for an astounding $19 billion in cash and stock. This was, at the time, the largest acquisition of a venture-backed company in history. Critics immediately raised concerns about competition, but regulators, including the FTC, approved the deal. This approval would later become a contentious point in the antitrust lawsuit, with the FTC arguing that the prior approval should not preclude them from challenging the acquisition years later, given new evidence and market understanding. With Instagram and WhatsApp under its belt, Facebook solidified its position as the undisputed king of social media and mobile messaging. These acquisitions, Meta argued, were about integrating services and offering users more value. However, the FTC views them as strategic moves to eliminate burgeoning rivals before they could grow large enough to truly challenge Facebook's entrenched monopoly. The fear was simple: without competition, innovation stagnates, and consumers have fewer choices, ultimately suffering from less privacy and higher prices for attention. Despite the massive success and seemingly seamless integration of these platforms, the seeds of dissent were being sown. Internally, some voices reportedly questioned the long-term implications of such aggressive acquisition strategies. Externally, critics and policymakers grew increasingly wary of the immense power concentrated in Facebook's hands. The idea of a single company controlling so much of our digital communication began to feel less like innovation and more like consolidation, sparking concerns that would eventually lead to the landmark lawsuit. Years passed. Public opinion shifted, and a new era of antitrust enforcement began to dawn, driven by concerns over big tech's unchecked influence. Lina Khan, a prominent antitrust scholar, rose to become chair of the FTC, signaling a more aggressive stance towards technology monopolies. Her academic work focused on the dangers of corporate concentration, particularly within digital markets. This change in leadership and philosophy directly set the stage for the FTC to revisit past decisions and challenge Meta's acquisitions. In December 2020, the hammer finally dropped. The Federal Trade Commission, alongside attorneys general from 46 states, filed a landmark antitrust lawsuit against Facebook. The core accusation was clear: Facebook had engaged in a systematic strategy to illegally maintain its monopoly position in personal social networking through anti-competitive acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp. This wasn't just a regulatory slap on the wrist, it was an existential threat, demanding nothing less than the unwinding of two of Meta's most valuable assets. The FTC's complaint laid out several key allegations. Firstly, it argued that Facebook held a monopoly in the personal social networking market. Secondly, it accused Facebook of using its power to suppress or eliminate competitors, specifically through the acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp. Finally, it claimed that these actions harmed competition and consumers by reducing choices, stifling innovation, and potentially leading to less privacy and data protection. The legal battle would thus center on defining a monopoly in the digital age and proving anti-competitive intent. Meta, of course, vehemently denied the charges. Its defense hinged on several points. They argued that Instagram and WhatsApp were acquired fairly and legally, with explicit regulatory approval at the time. Furthermore, Meta contended that the acquisitions were not anti-competitive but rather pro-competitive, benefiting consumers through improved services and features. They also challenged the FTC's definition of the personal social networking market, arguing it was too narrow and ignored the broader competitive landscape of digital communication. In June 2021, the FTC suffered an initial setback. A federal judge dismissed its complaint, ruling that the agency had failed to adequately define the relevant market and, crucially, had not provided enough evidence to support its claim that Facebook possessed monopoly power. This was a significant blow for the FTC, signaling the immense challenge of proving antitrust violations against a tech behemoth with vast resources and a complex digital ecosystem. Many questioned if the case could even proceed. However, the FTC was far from defeated. Under the leadership of Lina Khan, the agency quickly regrouped. They were granted leave to file an amended complaint, signaling their determination to press forward. This was a critical moment, as the FTC needed to strengthen its arguments, particularly around market definition and Meta's alleged monopoly power. The public, and indeed the tech world, watched closely to see if the agency could mount a more convincing case that would satisfy the court. In August 2021, the FTC filed its revised complaint, meticulously detailing its arguments. This time, the agency offered a more robust definition of the personal social networking services market, presenting extensive data and analysis to substantiate Facebook's alleged dominance. Crucially, it included more specific allegations about Facebook's internal documents and communications, aiming to demonstrate CEO Mark Zuckerberg's alleged kill zone strategy and the intent behind the Instagram and WhatsApp acquisitions. The stakes were raised significantly. The heart of the FTC's revised case lay in Facebook's internal communications. Emails and documents reportedly showed Mark Zuckerberg's awareness of Instagram and WhatsApp as competitive threats and his strategic decision to acquire them rather than compete. These communications, including statements about neutralizing a potential rival, provided crucial evidence of alleged anti-competitive intent. They offered a rare glimpse into the strategic thinking at the highest levels of a tech giant, which the FTC argued was explicitly designed to quash competition. A central legal hurdle for the FTC was proving Facebook's monopoly in a precisely defined market. The agency argued for personal social networking services, a market where Facebook allegedly faced no real competition after its acquisitions. Meta, conversely, argued for a much broader market, encompassing everything from TikTok and YouTube to iMessage and gaming, suggesting that they faced intense competition from numerous players. This battle over market definition is often the most critical aspect of any antitrust case, determining if a company truly holds monopolistic power. In January 2022, a pivotal moment arrived. The federal judge, after reviewing the amended complaint, allowed the FTC's case to proceed. This was a major victory for the agency, signifying that it had successfully addressed the court's previous concerns regarding market definition and presented enough plausible evidence to move forward with discovery and potential trial. The ruling meant that Meta would now face a full-blown legal challenge, with the prospect of its most valuable acquisitions being subjected to intense scrutiny. With the case moving forward, the courtroom battle intensified. Both sides began preparing for a potentially lengthy and exhaustive legal process. The FTC would delve deep into Meta's corporate records, interviewing executives, and analyzing vast amounts of data to build its case. Meta, in turn, would mount a vigorous defense, challenging every assertion and presenting its own economic analyses to demonstrate the pro-competitive benefits of its actions. The spotlight would soon turn to the evidence and the interpretation of intentions. Meta's defense rests on the premise that its growth and success are a result of innovation, not illegal monopolization. They argue that Instagram and WhatsApp flourished under Meta's ownership, benefiting from its resources, infrastructure, and expertise. Furthermore, Meta maintains that consumer choice has expanded, not contracted, with the proliferation of new social media apps and communication platforms. The company views itself as a fierce competitor in a dynamic market, not a stifler of competition. The fundamental clash in this lawsuit can be boiled down to two opposing viewpoints. The FTC argues that Meta engaged in anti-competitive acquisitions to maintain a monopoly, harming consumers by reducing choice and innovation. They point to internal documents and market concentration. Meta counters that its acquisitions were pro-competitive, benefiting users and fostering growth, and that the market is far broader and more competitive than the FTC suggests. This is a battle of narratives, economic theories, and legal precedent. At the heart of antitrust law is the concept of a monopoly. It's not illegal to be a monopoly, it's illegal to *obtain* or *maintain* one through anti-competitive means. The FTC must prove that Meta possesses significant market power and has used it unlawfully. This involves demonstrating barriers to entry for new competitors, the absence of viable substitutes, and a lack of effective competition. The digital realm complicates this, as networks effects often create natural monopolies, making the legal standard even higher. The lawsuit also raises significant questions about legal precedent. Can the FTC challenge acquisitions that were approved years ago? Meta argues that such challenges would create regulatory uncertainty and chill future innovation and investment. The FTC counters that new evidence and a clearer understanding of market dynamics can justify revisiting past decisions, especially when the long-term anti-competitive effects become apparent. This aspect of the case could redefine the boundaries of antitrust enforcement in the rapidly evolving tech sector. The case is far from over. Meta has consistently pushed back, challenging the FTC's claims and the very premise of the lawsuit. Appeals are a standard part of such high-stakes litigation, and Meta is utilizing every legal avenue to defend its corporate structure. The legal process is notoriously slow, meaning that even with the judge's ruling allowing the case to proceed, a final resolution could still be years away. The appeal process scrutinizes the legal basis for the earlier rulings, adding another layer of complexity. For FTC Chair Lina Khan, this lawsuit is more than just about Meta, it's about reshaping the entire landscape of antitrust enforcement in the digital age. Her vision challenges the long-held belief that big tech companies are inherently good for consumers. She argues that unchecked power stifles emergent competition, leading to stagnation rather than innovation. Her leadership represents a significant shift, signaling a new era where regulators are more willing to confront powerful corporations head-on. So, what could happen next? The range of potential outcomes is vast. At one end, Meta could win, and the lawsuit could be dismissed entirely, leaving its corporate structure intact. At the other, if the FTC ultimately prevails, the court could order a significant remedy, a forced divestiture. This means Meta would be compelled to sell off Instagram and WhatsApp, effectively breaking up the company. Other possibilities include behavioral remedies, like restrictions on how Meta operates its platforms or interacts with rivals. Divestiture, in this context, means forcing Meta to sell off Instagram and WhatsApp as independent companies. This would be a monumental undertaking, akin to breaking up Standard Oil or AT&T in previous eras. It would fundamentally alter the competitive landscape, creating new, independent entities that could directly rival Meta's remaining Facebook platform. The operational and financial complexities of such a move are immense, but for antitrust advocates, it represents the most potent remedy to restore competition. If a divestiture were ordered, the impact on Instagram and WhatsApp users would be profound. While the apps themselves might continue to function, their integration with Facebook's back-end, advertising systems, and shared resources would need to be untangled. This could lead to a period of instability, changes in features, or even different business models as they find their independent footing. However, proponents argue that independent Instagram and WhatsApp could innovate more freely, no longer constrained by Meta's overarching strategy. For Meta, losing Instagram and WhatsApp would be a colossal blow. These platforms represent a significant portion of its user base, revenue, and future growth potential, especially in the Metaverse initiative. The company would be forced to re-evaluate its entire strategy, potentially shifting focus back to its core Facebook platform and its Metaverse ambitions. It would be a leaner, but perhaps more focused, company, grappling with a radically altered competitive environment and a stark new reality. The outcome of the Meta antitrust lawsuit will send shockwaves far beyond Menlo Park. It could set a powerful precedent for how other tech giants, like Google, Apple, and Amazon, are regulated. A strong ruling against Meta might embolden regulators to pursue similar cases, leading to a new era of antitrust enforcement where breaking up big tech becomes a more viable and accepted remedy. Conversely, a Meta victory could temper such ambitions, reaffirming the difficulty of challenging dominant platforms. At its core, this lawsuit is a debate about the nature of innovation in the digital age. Is consolidation necessary for scale and efficiency, allowing companies to offer more robust services? Or does it stifle the very competition that drives true innovation and consumer benefit? The FTC argues the latter, while Meta champions the former. The court's eventual decision won't just interpret legal statutes, it will shape the philosophy of how digital markets should evolve for decades to come, impacting every user and entrepreneur. The legal journey for the Meta antitrust lawsuit is long and arduous. Between ongoing appeals, discovery, and a potential trial, years could pass before a definitive resolution is reached. Each phase will bring new arguments, new evidence, and new legal battles. But one thing is clear: the question of whether Meta's empire was built fairly or through anti-competitive practices will continue to hang heavy over Silicon Valley, promising a protracted fight that will captivate and challenge the foundations of modern tech. For billions of users, this legal drama might seem distant, yet its outcome could dramatically alter their daily digital experience. The familiarity of Instagram for sharing photos, or WhatsApp for encrypted messaging, has become ingrained. The idea of these services changing, or even becoming separate entities, raises questions about convenience, continuity, and perhaps, renewed competition. Ultimately, the lawsuit seeks to protect the very users who have made Meta's platforms indispensable, ensuring that their choices are dictated by genuine market forces, not monopolistic power. Whether Meta ultimately prevails or is forced to divest, this lawsuit marks a new chapter in the history of technology regulation. It signals an end to an era where tech giants grew largely unchecked, and ushers in a period of intense scrutiny and potential restructuring. The outcome will not only define Meta's future but also send a powerful message to every company aspiring to dominate the digital world. The question of could Instagram and WhatsApp be taken away has evolved into what kind of digital future do we want to build? The courtroom battles continue, the appeals are pending, and the fate of Instagram and WhatsApp hangs in the balance. This is not merely a legal dispute over corporate assets, it is a fundamental test of antitrust law in the 21st century. The world watches as the Federal Trade Commission and Meta lock horns, grappling with questions of power, competition, and the very fabric of our interconnected digital lives. The final verdict, whenever it arrives, will undoubtedly reshape the tech landscape for generations to come.